Practice is now over and now 15 minutes on the clock, and it's time for the drivers to test their mettle for round number 2 of the TSRC PC GT3 Series. Good evening and welcome along to the JP Broadcasting channel, the best place to catch all racing action, especially from the fine folks at the TSRC. My name is Kelsey Gill and joined of course by the young Zach Sweeney and Mr. Kieran Sharp on the cams to bring you all of the footage from alongside the track. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing alright actually, yeah, no, it's been a really productive day, and as always been looking forward to rounding off my Thursday evening with a good bit of TSRC because, well, as proven, it's a very close championship and one that I'm really looking forward to seeing progress.
Yes, it's always exciting to come back on a Thursday evening for some TSRC racing here with these GT3 cars. Always some interesting stuff going out on the track. And this evening we find ourselves swapping the Nürburgring for a similarly natured track for a test. Whoa, I've lost my words for a moment. For starting as a test track for Honda and now an icon in motorsport, the Suzuka International Racing Course is a 5.807 kilometer track with 18 corners, with some of them being some of the very infamous corners such as the Degner pairings and 130R, of course. Drivers will be put to the test as the corners hit you quick around this track, with there being little room for error and an importance on rhythm. It's another tricky track for the drivers in the calendar, and there is no walk in the park by any stretch when you're around the Suzuka circuit. Zach, you got any thoughts on the venue tonight, and perhaps some advice for the drivers out there as well?
Well, I don't really know about advice because my track record at Suzuka isn't great. I love the circuit, very fun to drive, and I'm sure these guys know a lot better than me when it comes to one of the icons, not only in Japanese motorsport, but in motorsport in general around the globe. It's a driver's favorite, really, Suzuka. It's one of those ones that you go to and you're like, yeah, this is going to be fun. It's fast, it's flowy. And what I will say, however, is that while it is fast, flowy, and fun to drive on a hot lap sense, racing around Suzuka is a different beast entirely. You look left, you look right, and it's a lack of runoff. It's grass, it's gravel, it's barrier. There's not really much in the sense of tarmac runoff. I mean, the only place I can really think is on the exit of Spoon and on the exit of 130R. But both of those corners, respectively, won't exactly like you for going into that bit of tarmac runoff anyway, because one, you'll either destabilize the car or lose a chunk of time. So around Suzuka, mistakes will be punished, and in all fairness, you're not really on the brakes for very long. You've got the hairpin, Spoon, and the Casio triangle really is sort of the main three that you can potentially go for a move, but even then it can be fairly limited. So you really have got to think quite wisely about the moves you take. You've really got to maybe set up a mistake or plan an overtake, or just be that much quicker that you're not really too fussed where you get an overtake because you can just drive past them anyway. That's a bit easier said than done, however. So what I would say, put good lap time in qualifying, get a good lap time on the board, so much so that if you start from the front, you won't really have to worry about overtaking many people anyway.
No, not at all. And yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. It's a calendar full of tricky circuits, and the narrowness of this circuit as well is going to make it a little bit tricky. And the walls are ever present. There's a little bit of space to perhaps take a little adventure off the circuit, but not too much. And you speak of lap times, Zach. I was some lap times to expect to see around somewhere between the sort of the pros and AMs. Would be somewhere between the 2-minute 1 mark, perhaps. There'll be drivers definitely going faster than that. Any aliens out there may even get themselves into the 1-minute 57s, but don't take my word for it. Take the drivers' words for it as the laps start to come in. And hello to the couple of people watching in the live chat as well. 3 of you at the moment. If you are so inclined, please do pop a couple comments in there. Do start up a conversation. If you've got any thoughts on Suzuka or any of the action coming up tonight, it would be great to hear from some of you and have a bit of a conversation getting started. We don't bite anymore, we promise. We sorted that out last season, so we're all safe from that side of things. But we'll take a quick glance over the championship as the laps start coming in, as Sam Fleety is currently leading the way in car number 16. So we'll take a first glance over the AMs, and if you remember back to the race last week, we had Dominic Aligna lead the way for the championship. He won and has got himself a nice 31 points ahead of Sir Smoggy with 24 points and Ethan Falconer on 20. Then there's Victor Martin, who's been promoted up into the AMs. He's on 17 points with Sam Fleety in P5. Then we have Samuel Chumley, Oscar Soristo, Elias Troyer, Jamie Nuttall, Slav, James Wright, Guillaume Hamling, Nico Veldman, Mav Gardner, Jack Southfield, Stuart Pryor, Maciej Krysiak, Mo Jamal and Maurice Stryker rounding off the Pro Championship at the moment. And then we'll take a quick glance over the AMs after the first round as well, with Lucas Spies leading the way on 30 points. Ryan Blanchette is 6 points behind on 24. Then we have Ivan Tomasi on 21 points, Gerard Alkamp on 17. Then there's Jim McGowan on 16, who rounds off your top 5. Then we have Wouter Steenberg in P6, Paolo Cisco 7, Adam Brown 8, Ryan Cockle in 9, Antonio Ferreira in 10, Patrizio Gemello in 11, Andrew Priadko in 12, Callum Morton in 13. Then there's Jack Holden, Marcelo Magalhaes and Avandro Martins as well. So a good start for the guys toward the top. Lucas Spies and Dominic Aligna especially getting off well at the moment, Zach. But who you liking so far in qualifying? Who do you reckon is going to have a bit of an advantage here, just from previous knowledge and what they're up to at the moment in this season?
Yeah, well, obviously we've got a couple of new faces coming to join us for Season 5. Obviously, we had Victor Martin join us in the AMs for round 1 at the Nürburgring, and he really did surprise. P4 overall, by the way. That's not just as an AM in the AM standings. That is overall, right? And that is almost completely unheard of for a driver to do so. That's why he has very swiftly been promoted into the Pro class, as to prevent such domination from reoccurring. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a curveball thrown. Yes, we've got our regulars, the likes of Chumley, Hamling, with Nuttall, etc., etc. Those sorts of people you would expect maybe to be sort of towards the front, but don't count out maybe the newer drivers, the freshians, I suppose, if that's now a word. I've made it one because I'm a commentator and I can do what I like. And if you don't like it, sue me. But basically, yeah, essentially, we can be thrown a curveball. So I wouldn't want to say I'm going to say this is the person that's going to come out on top, because you don't really know. Right now, in the first half of qualifying, Samuel Chumley is setting the pace, and in all fairness to him, it is a decent lap time, just over a quarter of a second quicker than Guillaume Hamling, so it is looking quite good for him at the moment. But Suzuka is such a driver circuit, so much so that a quarter of a second can be made up just by nailing each of the apexes through the S's, just by getting a bit more of momentum. You can gain a huge amount of lap time very easily around Suzuka, so I wouldn't put it past Hamling, Faulkner, Veldman, Fleety to put in an even better lap time and maybe get themselves onto the back of that 111.
Yes, of course. It's such a circuit where you're always going to be chasing that perfect lap, aren't you? You're always going to be trying to find the best way to go through, and it's going to really reward a car that's can kind of get the most out of the track, be stable, attack curbs, and really just find the best ways through. And I mean, the perfect lap is never really going to come, is it? But you can only try and try and try again, as the drivers will do in qualifying. We've got 6 minutes and 30 seconds left. Dominica Ligner now takes the top spot at the moment by 0.3 of a second from Samuel Chumley. The 2 McLarens leading the way at the moment. 2 of 4 McLarens that I think are out there on the grid, if I'm not mistaken. And then Sam Fleety's not too far behind as well. There's about a second covering the top 5, which also include Guillaume Hamling in his Lamborghini and Ethan Faulkner in the Ferrari, who impressed us last week, fighting among the top 3 as well. He was leading the race from pole position for a little while, and then Dominica Ligner and Sir Smoggy and the likes got themselves involved in the fighting and demoted him from his perch at the top, but he definitely fought hard to keep it as well. At the moment, we're watching Steenbergen come around, 130 on now. I'm not sure if it's flat in these cars, Zach, but it certainly is in Formula 1. That's my experience of this circuit for the most part. But in these cars, Zach, what is it like out there?
It's tough, like it would be in any avenue of racing. With the GTs, though, it is specifically difficult because in a Formula 1 car, you've got a lot of both mechanical and aerodynamic grip to rely on. You can essentially trust the car. You know, you're going to put your foot down, you're going to turn, and the car will turn as well, which is really good around a circuit like Suzuka because you've got a lot of fast, aerodynamically capable corners that Formula 1 thrives at. These GT cars, not so much. Well, yes, you can see those massive rear wings and, you know, beefy front splitters and some diffusers as well. They're not that great. Obviously, they're fantastic. You know, you'd get in one and you'd think, oh, wow, I've got all the grip in the world. But compared to a Formula 1 car or a single-seater, not as much. So they are a little bit more prone to understeering. So corners that wouldn't be corners in maybe more familiar Formula 1 machines are going to be felt a lot more as corners. That long run sort of through 200R off the hairpin into spoon is actually somewhat of a corner in GT machines. You can feel the front tires start to scrub. So the likes of 130R, turn 1 and turn 2, the S's, are big challenges in these cars. It's not just a case of turning the car and trusting it. It's a case of trail braking, managing the weight distribution, making sure the brake bias and the setup works well, and purely that you've turned in at the right point. Because these GT cars, if you turn in wrong, you know, you've set yourself on a path. There's no, you know, lifting off ever so slightly and readjusting. It's that you just have to commit to it because the car hasn't got the capacity to back out and readjust. It's take it or leave it, really. So you've got to be so precise in these GT machines around a circuit like Suzuka as well. So as I say, it really is a driver's track that will, you know, sort of separate the good from the great. Especially potentially in qualifying, because that is exactly where you are on your limit. So yeah, I think it is just going to be a case of, you know, treating the track with respect and treating the car with respect as well, and trusting that it can get you around these corners and hoping that it doesn't, you know, completely spear off into the barrier. Fortunately, these guys have got a lot of experience and are very good in their GT3 machineries. So yeah, as I say, obviously it's a very tricky circuit, but you know, I think it's a good thing to have circuits like Suzuka that are just full-on commitment.
It's going to be Man and Machine coming as one along on the road as well. And we just saw Elias Troy making his way around. I think he's starting a lap. This is Samuel Chumley now in the McLaren. I think he's on a lap, the 111 car of the Wii Racing team, coming around the final corner. That was a little bit shaky on the exit. Is this a quick lap? Can he get it up toward the top? No, he's going to be going round for a lap, though, I think. So all eyes will eagerly watch Samuel Chumley as he makes his way around. Though that was his lap. There we go. So he's only 2 tenths down on his previous, so the line's a lot further down than I first anticipated, but that's okay. Samuel Chumley's got a bit of time left. Maybe he's got to try and put his foot down. There's a few drivers as well, not too many people getting too close to Ligner's time there at the front, a 1 minute 49.0 at the moment. I mean, the track looks very overcast out there as well. Is that going to affect the amount the drivers can push out there, Zach?
I honestly think overcast is probably one of the best conditions you can have as a driver. Obviously, there is a threat of rain because clouds and things, but the track will warm up to your liking. It's almost like being too cold when you're trying to go to sleep. You can always put another blanket on. But when it's too hot, you can't exactly take more layers off. You run out of layers to take off. And I think it is the same when it comes to racetracks. If you've got a 40-degree track temp out there, there's not really much you can do in order to lower the track temperature and stop yourself from sliding. But when the track is overcast, it's already, you know, fairly warm. The more you drive, the more it's going to heat up, the more the tires settle into a nice window. So I'd say overcast, sort of the maybe the middle of the range in terms of the temperatures, is actually the best time to put in some good hot laps. The track is warm enough, the tires aren't too hot, and you can trust that it's not going to be unpredictable over the course of a lap. So I think this is going to be sort of some of the fastest times that we do manage to see. But with it being Suzuka and with the habit of rain sometimes when it comes to this part of Japan, maybe we could see a bit of a downpour. I remember all the way back in season 1's finale, the last time we took to Suzuka, it was absolutely drenched. So I wouldn't put it past the 40-minute race ahead of us today, which really would throw a spanner in the works. But I think for qualifying, I honestly, I might be wrong, I might differ from other people's opinions, but overcast is probably one of my favorite conditions to drive in when it's dry.
Yeah, certainly, and well, drivers definitely finding time. No one displacing Aligna now, but here's Gemello. This is the fight for the pole among the AMs at the minute. It's very close, and Gemello goes ahead, puts Gardner in between himself and Ivan Tomasi as well. Improves by about 3/10 on that time too, but there's still a few drivers left to come across the line. Here's Nico Veldman in his Audi. Can he break into the top 5 at the moment on this lap? Trying to take the shortest run possible to the line. It's a better improvement, 5/10 of one, but it's not enough to see him go ahead of Hamling in the Lamborghini, but that might give him a decent cushion from Suristo behind. How about Ryan Blanchette in the Ferrari? He's just coming through Spoon Curve now. That's the second part of the corner. Very long, very tricky left-hander this one, and you can really gain some time if you can carry the speed coming through. And then it's the run all the way down to 130R at the moment for Ryan Blanchette. He's got to find some time. He's got about 4/10 of a second to find if he wants to try and challenge the pole among the AMs as well. Lucas Spies has improved. He's got himself next to Gemello on the grid at the moment, but he's not got himself ahead of him at the moment, so we'll have to do the work on track. How about Blanchette coming through now? These will be the last few laps of the qualifying session. Can he get himself along the lines? Just the next one down. Here comes the Ferrari car number 5. Does improve onto pole position.
Beautiful move. All the way up there. So nice job in the end, and well, a really deserved qualifying session. Really good stuff from those involved. Dominic Aligna managing to put the lap time in right when it counted. 1 minute 58.8, a rapid time, it must be said. The only driver to do so, and the margin back to Sam Fleety is 0.3 of a second. There's our AM Championship leader, race 1 winner of Spies, down in P3 overall for the AM. So definitely not a bad shout at all. But here's how they rack up after qualifying.
Yeah, so Dominic Aligna then takes pole position overall and for the pros as well, putting that car number 716 at the front with Sam Fleety lining up alongside. Then behind them are Ethan Faulkner and Samuel Chumley on the next row of the grid. Then we have Guillaume Hamling and Nico Veldman. Then there's Oscar Soristo, Maurice Stryker, Jack Southfield and James Wright. They round off your top 10. Then there's Jamie Nuttall, Elias Troyer and Pryor, who are in P11, 12 and 13. Then we start with the AMs with Blanchette, Gemello, Spies. They're your top 3 for the AMs at the moment. Gardner dropping back a little bit among them. He'll have some work to do in the race. Then we have Tomasi, Cisco, Steenbergen, Priadko, Fiera as we go through the rest of the long list of drivers, with Cockle and Brown being the last couple on the grid. I think we've got an interesting race here, Zach. There's a few drivers who've got some decent lap times in. There's not much between them, only a few tenths of a second. It's not too much, but it could be enough for a battle to go. We've got 40 minutes of racing with a mandatory pit stop as well, somewhere in the middle with the pit window opening. I think it's a 20-minute pit window or 15-minute pit window. I should know by now with the with how many times I've done this, Zach, but I think we're in for a good one.
I think so as well. And yes, it's the middle 20 minutes of the race. So it's from 10 minutes in till 10 minutes to go, if memory serves me correctly. I've been here since, September of last year, I think. Season 1 started, something around that vein. and there's still some things I would rather not admit that I forget sometimes. So, well, I mean, it took us till what, halfway through season 4 for Kieran to tell us how Chumley's name is actually said. You know, this whole time, Samuel Cholmondeley. No, it's Samuel Chumley. So yeah, we're forgetful. We're commentators. We do that. We try to pretend as we're as professional as we may seem. We're not. We hate to break it to you. We are just humans. So there you go. We're sorry to break it to you. 40 seconds left on the clock before we're underway for the formation lap. But yeah, absolutely. I think we're in for a really good race. Obviously, the pit window, with it being a circuit that lends itself quite well to having track position, coming in a lap earlier, a lap later, could very well easily play into the hands of an undercut or an overcut, giving you that clear track ahead to actually make the jump without having to make the jump, doing the hard work on the track. So yeah, be interesting to see the variation in strategy, even in a 40-minute race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what we got in store for us. But Aligna looking quick, and can anyone topple him for the win?
Yeah, we've seen some great strategy calls, overcut, undercuts, working to different degrees on the for the drivers and getting in the clear air around a track like this. I wouldn't say it's hard to overtake around here. I'd say it's slightly easier than at the Nürburgring, although we were proved wrong last time out, so we're probably going to be proved wrong again. But it certainly does help if you can get that track position through the pits and just come out ahead of your rival. On the stop as well, and I commentated on a race this week where the undercut was extremely powerful, where drivers were gaining a good 6 seconds on their opponents. But enough of other races that I've commentated on. We'll get back to this one. We're on the formation lap now. Zach, what have the drivers got to do now to prepare themselves for the 40 minutes of racing around this absolute beast of a circuit?
So there are a number of things that you can do on a formation lap, and it's sort of what I always fall back on as a topic to bring up on a formation lap, because it's so important. So obviously, with a formation lap, you've got the physical aspect of things. The tyres are fresh, the brakes are fresh, they're all cold, we're all at bog standard sort of car quote room temperature, the bog standard sort of as they come out of the pit lane. So you've got to get them up to temperature. The tyres, the brakes especially. The last thing you want are the brakes to be cold, because you know you're more susceptible for them not to work. And same too with the tyres. You know, the colder they are, the less malleable they are, the more resistant they are to lateral forces, and therefore the more they're going to slide, sort of just like ice skates on an ice rink. That's essentially what the tyres will do. So you've got to bring them back up to temperature nice and gradually, not too much as to, you know, shred the tyre, but just enough to get yourself comfortable, ready to go for the start of the race, and at least get them to a stage where you're comfortable to push on that opening lap, because that's the moment you want to push. That's the physical side of things. That's the car. Now let's go inside the driver's head. Let's go inside their brain, because we have to remember these guys are human as well. Funnily enough, they aren't just pretend race car drivers in pretend race cars and names on a screen. They are people behind the screens of their sim rigs, and they've got that pressure, they've got that emotion, they've got that adrenaline flowing through their veins, and it's such a tricky thing for them to, you know, manually calm back down. It's one of those things they have to take control of, and one of the ways you can do that is to set yourself a target. For Aligna, it's going to be get a good start, keep the lead, build up half a second gap. For Fleety, it's going to be get the jump, get Aligna, get myself into the lead. Maybe if you're a little bit further down, maybe right south loop sort of vein, gain 2 places, gain 3 places, whatever it is, right? Set yourself a target, give your mind something to focus on and hone in on, because right now Aligna's going, pole position, championship lead, Suzuka, pit strategy, difficult, tired, brakes, and it's just so overwhelming. Tunnel vision, just say, this is my target, this is my aim, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's sort of the way to calm the nerves. Just deal with it, essentially, is what I'm saying, and not allow it to get the better of you. But we'll see who is able to do that best over the next 40 minutes of racing action. It should be a very, very good one, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we get on.
Zach Sweeney's race prep notes. Just deal with it. July 2023. You heard it here first, everybody. Yeah, that's it. It's almost like my "Go Faster" quote from last season. But anyway, we're lining up alongside each other now. We're coming through the final few corners, waiting for that green light. Who's going to get the jump? Who's set their goals in motion during this formation lap? who is going to have the best start, the best tyres, the best prepared car and mindset for this race. All is going to be told in a moment when we go racing for 40 minutes here at the Suzuka International Racing Course. We're waiting for the drivers to go. At the moment, it's Eligner, then Fleety, then Faulkner, Chumley, Hamling, Veltman, Suristo, Striker, Southfield, Wright. At the moment, these will be the guys we're watching, and of course, we'll be watching everybody else as well. But a championship is on the line. It's a long, long way to go. It's round number 2. We're approaching the line for the green light. At the moment, in many moments now, it feels like the longest moment that I've been waffling on for now, but we're waiting for those green flags, and we're away for round number 2 here at the TSRC GT3 PC Series. At the moment, it is side by side. They go into the first corner. It's Eligner and Fleety. Fleety trying to go all the way around at the moment as well, but Eligner has to jump on him at the second part of the corner, and now Faulkner's getting involved. This side by side for these two in towards turn 3, but the inside line proves far superior for Fleety at the moment. Manages to fend off the Ferrari, who is now trying to keep Samuel Chumley behind him as well. The top 5 getting off very, very well. All the drivers getting off very, very well, being very respectful from each other as Veldman and Jack Southfield now go side by side.
Yeah, poor start for Nico Veltman, the Ginger Ninja of Jack Southwood, going the long way around through Dunlop. Beautiful stuff. Reigning champion Jamie Nuttall as well on that Lexus RCF, looking to go for the move on the Flying Dutchman. Inside line through the Degners, don't really often see that. The Audi tries to go the long way round, and he's off. He's onto the gravel through the Degner into Degner 2. He's lost another place to the Ferrari, the Porsche as well. I think of Elias Troyer nearly finding a way through. Also, a very chaotic first lap, and a one to forget for Nico Veltman.
Yeah, it was not the best start, not what you wanted, perhaps not the goal he had in mind after the formation lap as well. So some work to do there. Here's Ferreira. He's trying to find a way around the outside of the hairpin there. That's not going to work to get past the Mercedes of Piatco, I think that is. He's got ahead of him. Yes, the 777 car at the moment. Little squabble at the back of the grid as well. But what the driver's got to do now, Zach, they've got to settle into the long, long race ahead of them, haven't they?
They do indeed. The initial carnage is sort of over. Now it's a case of hunkering down. It's a little bit wide from Adam Brown. I think he loses the place to Walter Steenbergen, who finds his way past. But yeah, you've made your places up now, so settle in or push for more. Maybe still make the most of while everyone is relatively bunched up in things, and still push. I suppose it's going to be all out attack from now to the end. That's sort of the beauty of 40-minute sprint races. While it is not the sprint race of the season, they are still sprint races. It's just the sprint races are kind of sprint races, I suppose, in that regard. Also in the background, that's a good little move from Maurice Stryker, who still is flying his striking colours, this time on a different chassis. It's the Ferrari 296 for the Flying Dutchman, and that is very wide. Was that Jamie Nuttall, I think, in the background going very wide through turn 1? It might well have been, and he's lost himself in a bit of heat there with James Wright. Nico Veltman just in behind. A wide run through turn 1, but he's been able to keep a place in the top 10, the reigning champion.
Yeah, Jamie Nuttall's been struggling a little bit, I think, in this Lexus. A new car for him. He was in the Ferrari last season. He's not got as up to grips with it as well. It's a different bit of machinery. It's a bit bulkier. It's a bit less slick as the Ferrari there, which is the car behind him that James Wright is wrangling around the track, car number 11, and you can just see the differences between the two cars out there on the circuit as well. So you can probably understand Nuttall's frustrations with the car, perhaps, but all that aside, it's Jamie Nuttall. It's the driver who came in last season and just said, all right, boys, I'm the quickest of the lot of you, try and beat me. And yeah, he came around and was the champion as Cisco and tries to get up the inside of the hairpin, gets the job done at there ahead of Spies in his Ferrari at the moment. But you can kind of understand the frustrations of Nuttall, but he's a good driver, Zach, and I think he'll bounce back and at least scrape to give us some good results, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a champion for a reason. He lost the championship all the way back in season 1 to Sami Brignara, purely because of some bad luck, a couple of DNFs as well for unfortunate measure, and then he came back after his sabbatical and was like, yeah, boys, I'm the top dog now, so sort of do as you're told. I think that's Gardner in the background going for a move maybe on Gameo or on Cisco as well. No, it's on Gameo. That's the fight for 16th. We follow this fight though for the fringes of the top 10. But yeah, Nuttall, I think he's gone for a new challenge with the Lexus. It very clearly isn't the quickest of the bunch of cars, you know, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, the mainstream cars. He has gone for something a little bit different and is trying to succeed. And in all fairness to him, despite the fact he's a minority, he's doing really well. Veldman, after starting 6th, is trying to recover after a poor start. Inside line through turn 1 on James Wright and picks his way past into 10th place. But yeah, he's pushing on hard. He's still inside the top 10, and I don't put him past him to put it on the podium, maybe even a win this season. Who knows? We'll find out as he gets better acclimatized to the machinery that he's in and fights up and down the field. Because, well, this fight right here, queuing up behind Oscar Soristo, who won last time we were in Suzuka.
Yeah, Oscar Soristo, he took a bit of a sabbatical as well, and he's back in his Porsche now and racing toward the sharp end as well. He's got Maurice Stryker and Jack Southfield for company as well. And well, that Audi of Nico Feldman looked a lot more put together than James Wright. Ferrari had a lot of speed and perhaps the slipstream and a better exit giving him the advantage there. But is slipstream going to be too much of an effect around here? There's not many straights, Zach. There's only one real proper straight around here. If you want to try and count the run from Spoon Curve through 130R and down towards the chicane toward the end, then you probably can, but I don't think I'd class it as such.
It's a straight. It's just a bit of a wibbly wobbly one. So yeah, it's a portion where you are flat out. But you're right. Yeah, there's not exactly an abundance of straight line places. There's periods where you are flat out. So obviously slipstream is going to play a big factor in that. So you just have to make sure you're tucked up nicely behind the car in front. The problem really is that the flat out sections aren't followed by a heavy braking zone. I mean, 130R in these cars is more of a corner. So while you are going into the Castro Triangle, you've already lost a little bit of ground naturally through 130R. So much so that it is a little bit more difficult to go for a move. Off the back of the pit straight, you've got the sweepers of turns 1 and 2, which again, you can go for a move, but you're not going to go for a send if you're, you know, more than a car length back. You know, to get a move done into turn 1, you've already got to be alongside. Similar to Maurice Stryker going for the move late to the right-hand side by side with the Season 1 winner here at Suzuka of Oscar Soristo, and Maurice Stryker picks his way past. So yeah, overtaking opportunities are few and far between. You've just got to make the most of what you've got, and you know, everyone's in the same boat essentially at Suzuka. Everyone's got to find an overtaking opportunity. It just depends if you're the best at finding one, and setting up moves here is quite easy in all fairness, because it's all about momentum, it's all about switching back, all about getting that advantage relative to your opponent. So yeah, I still think we're going to see an abundance of overtakes, as you can see there with Oscar Soristo. As soon as he's lost a little bit of momentum, Jack Southfield is straight on the case. A little battle ding dong as one of them goes off.
Yeah, getting a little dent in that Bentley there, perhaps putting the bent in the Bentley name at the moment, as Andrew Pike said in the chat. There you go, we put it in there for you, Andrew. So we finally found a use for it at the moment, but it's all fun and games. They love Jack Southfield, really, I hope. No, they don't. Okay. Well, I won't be too mean, but you know, Jack Southfield gets himself up a place, I suppose, up ahead of Oscar, who looked a little bit flustered, I think, with being overtaken by Maurice Stryker. He got himself alongside, got the job done pretty quickly, and then through Sector 1, just didn't really have the car put together, and that allowed Southfield to strike. And speaking of striking, here comes Jamie Nuttall. He's fighting with Veldman once again. They're going to go side by side through 130R. This is going to be a good little scrap as they come down towards the Casio Triangle, and ahead before the corner just about is Nuttall, but he's gone deep and he's invited Veldman back around the outside now. 2 by 2 they go, as Wright and Troyer go tussling with one another as well. Nuttall coming out ahead at the moment, car 14 leading them along the straight, still side by side for the Porsche and the Ferrari just behind them as well. But Veldman's gonna come back at this, tucks into the slipstream now. He's got a lot of straight line speed in that Audi as well, but he's not quite enough, as Nuttall's just managed to fend him off for now. But they go through with not changing there, but then deep in for Nuttall now. So it's Veldman up the inside of the first couple of corners, and he's got it. That Lexus really not treating him well in that first corner, and Veldman back ahead. That was a good little few corners of switching positions.
Yeah, brilliant bit of battling between these four, and rightly so. It's the fight for the fringes of the top 10. Veldman definitely has pace, but unfortunately fell off a little bit in the opening stages of this race. Nuttall going through deep off the exit of that long right-hander into Dunlop could well set up Elias Troy in the Porsche to maybe fabricate something, but also that Ferrari of Wright looks very, very menacing in his rearview mirror. And that's the problem you face when you're in trains like this. It's overtake or be overtaken, essentially. You're looking forward, you're looking backwards, you're defending, you're attacking, you're hitting apexes. You're doing a million different things at once, trying to balance the car all at the same time. So, yeah, a stressful moment ahead, but we tick through our first 10 minutes, a very important milestone to reach. And now we've got Nuttall under a little bit of pressure on the back end of the top 10 and visibly slower than the rest. And, well, that's one way to defend, by kicking up some dirt in your opponent's face.
Yeah, it's also one way to slow yourself down in a section like that through 200R and down towards Spoon, but I think Veldman's built himself a nice little cushion now. Nuttall's really got to get his head down and move on, but this battling is inviting Blanchette and Tomasi into the fray, the leaders for the AMs at the moment, so they might get involved in some of this battling, and they're entitled to. It won't be for position between them. Well, it will be for position, but not for points as far as the championship is concerned. But it will certainly put a spanner into the works if they keep fighting at the moment, as the pit window is now open. So anybody going to go in early at the moment, they've got 20 minutes to decide when they go in. What do you do, Zach? What do you try and do around a track like Suzuka when you've got a mandatory pit stop? Do you go early? Do you go late? Do you go sometime in the middle? What is your priority out there when in a race like this?
It's all sort of dependent on circumstance more than anything, really. If you're chilling out in front, don't come in, because all you're going to do is put yourself out in traffic and lose loads of time. If you're Dominic Ligner and you're quite quick out in front, stay out in front for as long as you possibly can, because you can then maximize your pace with clear air and then, you know, limit the amount of time you're going to spend in traffic, basically. If, however, you are locked in this fight here, maybe with Troy and Wright and Blanchette, etc., it might be worth, you know, coming in a bit earlier or staying out a little bit later to get that clear air, to run by yourself. We'll wait and see what the ideologies are going to be for the majority of these people, but I would say if it's not broke, don't fix it. Jack Southfield, though, with a broken Bentley, has now found himself up the inside of Oscar Soristo through the hairpin. The up and under from the Porsche looks mighty. All he's got to do is get that flat six engine talking all the way up, revving all the way up with his foot to the floor. Unfortunately, Soristo doesn't quite have the measure relative to Jack Southfield and the beefy Bentley. However, he's managed to etch himself ahead and up into 7th place for Team TSRC. Oscar Soristo proven, you know, to be quite quick. I mean, he's keeping them honest for now, but Southfield for now definitely has the pace advantage.
Yeah, we saw some great battles between these two a couple seasons ago. They really did show us some great racing. They were both in a Bentley at that time, but both in a Porsche that time. I should correct myself. But Jack Southfield opting for the Bentley this time. Here's Mav Gardner. He's having a look at the back of Tomasi in the McLaren just ahead of him through 130R. Not quite. Can't quite get that BMW to make an attack at the moment, but it may be in toward the first couple of corners. We'll see. But Gardner wanting to clear these AM drivers perhaps and maybe catch onto the back of Wright, who is currently chasing along Nuttall as well at the moment. And a few pit stops coming in. That's Hamling, Soristo and Veldman from the pros.
Yep, now Mav Gardner on the inside of the McLaren. This is Tomasi. Does that move quite nicely. Obviously not for any points or anything like that, but obviously just to get himself that track position. But get him Hamling in quite early, it must be said, for the man from Luxembourg. Still have no idea what to call him. Luxemburger, Luxembourgish, something like that, I suppose. I did discuss that. I remember all the way back at Indianapolis road course, we had like a good 5-10 minute discussion in the YouTube chat back when I didn't have to deal with Kelsey for these broadcasts. Yeah, I had a good old little chat with myself about what to call someone from Luxembourg, and I've just settled with Luxembourgish or Luxemburger because it sounds cooler. But he's into the pit lane nonetheless. He gets that red little box next to his number to indicate that he's taken his mandatory stop, and now he gets to continue, albeit quite nicely actually, with a bit of clear air. He's got a nice gap back to Oscar Soristo and a decent gap up to Brown. So 6 seconds in play there for Hamling that he can use to push as hard as he can.
Yeah, you make it sound like it's a chore commentating with me, Zach. Is it really? Is it really that much? Horrible, apparently. There you go,
like being teammates with Jack Southfield.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, perhaps. Or when you put it like that, but where's Phil across the pond when you when you need him to offer some defence in my name? Yeah, savage, Kieran, definitely
I'm
savage.
just glad James doesn't watch these anymore, because I think I'd be out of a job if he did.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, exactly. Gosh. But yes, Hamling does have a nice little cushion now. He's going to have some clear air. That might help him in amongst the fight. He's probably in there with the likes of Chumley and Faulkner. The leaders have really checked out at this point. Fleety is, well, he's what, 2.7 seconds up the road? And then there's Ligner, who's 1.8 seconds up the road. That's a mistake from a Mercedes there. That's invited Gemello through, or perhaps there's some battling going on between them. Either case, Gemello has appeared in front of the Mercedes at the moment, and Nuttall's now into the pits in the Lexus, and so he's trying to go for a bit of an undercut perhaps as well. Still fairly early in the pit window. What a wow!
Oh, that was almost brilliant from Patrizio Gemello. Very close to being brilliant. I think a bit of contact with the Mercedes of Priadko promoted him around a little bit more. The problem there was he obviously ran too wide, got onto the dirty bit of the track, and plus the AstroTurf mainly. It's slippery out there, the curb is unstable, and the rear end kicked out. He did a really nice drift considering we're in Japan, which was obviously setting the standards for the locals. They need to go out there in their heavily modified S13s and try and beat it with a good old handbrake rip through the mountains. But Gemello, yeah, nice little save until it wasn't, but he's managed to keep it pointing the right way, and in pursuit now of the two in front. That is, of course, for the AM 4th place, with Cisco not too far up the road either from the 777. So potentially a podium still on the cards for those involved, with just under 25 minutes of racing action left in round 2 of the TSRC PC GT3 Series Season 5 here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So many acronyms in the name. Makes for such a mouthful trying to say it, but it's a good series, so we'll let them off. But yeah, no, it was a good save from Gemello, it must be said. And now he's just got to focus on getting his tyres cooled back down and focusing on the job at hand.
I don't think I've ever had trouble saying it, to be honest, Zach. It's
Are you calling me a bad commentator? Hang on.
Well, you know, it's a two-way street here now. It's, you know, one shot fired one way, one shot fired the other. I've just noticed, Zach, Jamie Nuttall's got himself a drive-through penalty on the timing tower there. That is going to demolish his race. It's not an incredibly long pit lane here, but it is not going to be anything... well, it's not going to be helpful in any stretch of the imagination for Nuttall, so he's really going to have to push, or perhaps just settle for where he's going to emerge from that at the moment. There's still lots of drivers still to come in. I think about 19 drivers yet to come in for pit stops at the moment. Hamling's really putting the pedal down though at the moment. He's gained about 8 seconds on Brown ahead of him at the moment, so he's really gaining a bit of time. That might bode well for when the others do come in at the moment. They still got 13 minutes to do so. At the moment, we're currently watching Chumley at the moment, putting a pressure on Faulkner at the moment, and this is the battle for the lead in the AMS, I think. It's Tomasi and Blanchette. They've been fairly inseparable as the race has gone on.
They have been. They've been a nice little couple holding hands around Suzuka. I must say, I do love that livery on Ivan Tomasi's car. It just flows nicely with the McLaren's bodywork. Sort of the whole ethos at McLaren is just elegance with the bodywork, the airflow. That wasn't an elegant maneuver through the hairpin. Nice drift, but not the way you'd want to tackle that hairpin specifically. I like looking at it from the front because you've got the black as Adam Brown, also not really showing too much elegance in his Aston Martin V8 Vantage, I think, in ACC, or it's the V12, one of the two. Unfortunately, he's had a bit of an off. But yeah, I do like the livery on that McLaren. Same can't be said with that Aston Martin, I'll be honest. I don't rate it as much. Maybe it's the blue. Maybe I don't like that shade of blue too much.
Yeah, I think the segmenting as well makes it look a bit off. But here's Chumley making an attack now. Looks to try and go around the outside of the first couple of corners. Faulkner's going to say, no, sirree, you're not coming through there. I'm going to get myself onto that racing line, and you're going to eat some diffuser for the time being. And I think Chumley may be getting a little bit sick of looking at the back of that Ferrari at the moment. But he's going to knuckle down and try and get himself along as well. But still as they go, it's fairly inseparable between the two of them. The fight for the last place on the podium, of course, at the moment. Oh, some shots fired in the live chat. Andrew Pike's calling you a noob, Zach.
I said V8 first time, by the way, Andrew Pike, so have that, right? That is a dart to the inside from Walter Steenbergen, who has fought his way up to 12th place. It is the V8 advantage, so I did say that. I just doubted myself. So thank you for confirming my hypothesis, Andrew. Much appreciated. And don't ever question my skills as a commentator again, because I get really insecure and I'll cry myself to sleep about it. And then that'll be on your conscience as a child abuser. So have that, mister. Shots fired today. We're absolutely ruthless tonight. I love it. It's great. Yeah, only the best here on JB Broadcasting, and only the best being shown in this battle between Ryan Cockle and Walter Steenbergen.
Yeah, of course. Zach playing the minor card at the moment. A strong card to use until you're 18, then there's no excuse.
I've still got a few months there. Yeah, what have I got? 9 months, I think. Yeah, I've got it.
Oh, 9 months, and then he's a big boy. There we go. 9 more months. But, well, what we don't have is 9 months in this race at the moment. We're approaching the halfway mark now as the seconds tick down. We're halfway through the pit window as well, so surely these guys have got to start coming in. At the moment, Hamling is slowly making his way through. He's still got loads of clear air. 18.6 seconds to the next car of Hamling. What do you think? Is he doing enough out there at the moment to get himself into a better position among the top 5 as Eligna and Chumley are now in?
I mean, well, let's just take to be fair, let's just have a quick little gander. The lap time shown from Hamling is actually ever so slightly quicker than what Eligna did on that last lap. Actually, no, it's not. It's 0.7 of a lap slower from Hamling. So I think Eligna is a bit of a far reach for Hamling to aspire to, but anything can happen. Mistakes can be made. I think his race is more with Chumley, Fleety, Faulkner, that sort of vein for Hamling. I think he might well be able to do it, but Eligna is just out in front. He's got the fast lap of the race, and he is just flying. And there's no two ways about that. He's using that McLaren 720S to full effect. Beautiful livery, beautiful driver, and beautiful driving skills at play for Eligna, who is looking to take yet another victory, both this season and in his overall charge in what is now being dubbed the Sim Roasting Collective, as is very rightly dubbed. But he comes out ahead of Samuel Chumley. Now it's just going to be a case of, can Sam Fleety maybe do enough to close the gap while he's got some clear out in front?
Well, speaking of, the undercut was working for Hamling. He's ahead of Chumley, which is, yeah, so it has worked for him, I guess. Kind of the 63s around this corner as well. Who is car number 63? I should probably know that, but perhaps they're out of the race because I couldn't see them on the screens at the moment, but I'm sure we'll figure that out as we go. But yeah, Dominic Eligna really checked out, stretched his legs, got himself up ahead, and has said, right, I'm just gonna get some more practice in around this track, I suppose, and not drop it. We watched, who was it that dropped it? Sam Fleety on the pit stops last time. Spun into the wall. It was, yeah, Sam Fleety from the lead, and that was a huge mistake for him to start his season off.
It was. He looked really quick as well. I think he was leading by a little bit, and unfortunately then eventually had to settle for 5th place in the race. I think initially he dropped to 6th and then brought his way back to P5. So he's looking to fire back, at the very least get a podium. I think that is going to be the bare minimum for Sam Fleety, who's always been a driver that's looked mightily quick no matter what car you put him in. And he's looking to impress once again this season, and hopefully for him he can put in some good lap times relative to Dominic Eligna and maybe make up that 1.5-2 second jump, or at the very least close himself back into slipstream range in order to target the championship leader, the 716 machined McLaren of Dominic Eligna. Guillaume Hamling as well has come out about 9 seconds behind him, so I think Hamling is settling himself into 3rd in this race. As Ivan Tomasi with a good little bit of a slide through Spoon.
Yeah, if well, the next Fast and Furious movie will definitely have some choices of stunt driver if they need them. At the moment, here's Guillaume Hamling. That's Faulkner coming out. That's just at the very fringes of getting through at the moment, and Hamling's had to go deep, so Faulkner's going to have a try around the outside, but Hamling has just got out ahead. He's been pushing and pushing and pushing with the clear air, and he's got himself into that last spot on the podium at the moment. Still 3 drivers yet to pit, but that is an impressive start to his second stint for Hamling.
Yeah, really good job there. Faulkner would be gutted not to have kept that place, but cold tyres fresh out the pit lane and the lack of momentum probably wasn't the best idea. So Hamling was brave there not to back out, sail himself now ahead of Faulkner and up into what will be, I believe, 3rd place overall after everything sort of settles itself out with Stryker and Priadko coming in to the pit lane. We'll see where Sam Fleety comes out, whether it will be ahead or behind them, because it probably will be ahead of him. I think it's going to be Fleety, Aligna from Fleety, Hamling, and then Faulkner. So Faulkner and his charge for the podium definitely isn't over whatsoever as he pursues after the Lamborghini.
Yeah, Hamling, a true veteran of the series, showing the newer Ethan Faulkner how it is done out there on the track, and in impressive style as well. This could be a battle that perhaps sparks on throughout the last few stages of the race. Fleety now in as well. The 777 car and the 23 machine of Maurice Stryker are the only drivers that owe us a pit stop still at the moment. They've got the little number 1 within the orange block at the moment still next to their names. Anyone with a green has served their time in the pit lane as well. A little mix up among the AMs I was noticing as well. Cisco managed to get ahead of Tomasi, who's dropped back, so he's in 3rd for the AMs at the moment, but he's got a bit more time to try and push and push and push. And there's Fleety with Hamling and the gaggle of cars in the background as well, being Faulkner and Chumley a few more seconds back as well, making their way through the first turn.
Indeed so, but in hot pursuit is Hamling on the back of Sam Fleety, who unfortunately has lost quite a bit of time up to Dominic Aligna. It is a shame, and I think Aligna and his pace in this race has just been unrivaled, really. It's been, yeah, he's just been head and shoulders above the rest in this race. We'll see what the gap truly is after Sam Fleety crosses the timing line, but it does mean that Hamling is within a shout for 2nd place. Oscar Soristo is stopped at the apex of turn 2 as he allows a couple of drivers through before lining up the rear tyres and rejoining the track. Always a sketchy place to rejoin, and unfortunately Oscar Soristo can't replicate the same success he did 4 seasons ago.
No, definitely not. It's a shame for Soristo. He's a good driver. He does like to get his elbows out there as well, but he's just not feeling it at the moment. Maybe a little bit of rust to be getting off of that. It's a major drift, just about catching it before the car went for a full rotation before coming into Dunlop. And, well, lots of drifting action going on out there. Meanwhile, Tomasi's caught onto the back of Cisco now. He's being pushed along by James Wright in the Ferrari. So 2 McLarens and a Ferrari all nose to tail with one another as they come toward the hairpin now. This is, of course, a fight among the AMs, and James Wright's just trying to pick his way through at the moment. And, well, the AMs will give him as hard a time as they can. They're all entitled to race, of course, at the moment. Maurice Stryker now into the pits. Priadko's leaving it very, very late. Does he know something we don't?
I mean, I think it's more a personal preference than anything. There's even Tomasi to the inside. The 2 McLarens tandem before the 18 machine darts into the inside of the Italian livery 720S, rejoining the circuit. Oh, I don't really know what to make of that, to be honest. Tomasi was on the inside. Yeah, I don't know. Did he warrant space? Was it too much of a desperate send? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But yeah, Priadko is going to have to come in soon. However, that is a very unfortunate incident with Tomasi. Good news is he's got the place over Cisco. The very bad news is that he lost 3 in doing so.
Yes, and it makes Ryan Blanchett all that more out of reach. And actually, this invites Lucas Spies now back into the podium question in amongst the AMs at the moment, as he's all over the back of Tomasi now, and he's going to try and capitalise on that collision as well, and perhaps a visit to the steward's room later on after the race may occur. But we won't talk about things after the race. We'll talk about the race itself. Here's Mav Gardner at the moment. He's chasing down Ryan Cockle just ahead of him at the moment. A little bit of a scrap towards the back. Mav's really not had a good time out there in his BMW. He's way down. Trying to spot Jamie Nuttall at the moment. It looks like he's absolutely in no man's land, probably way back on everybody else after that drive-through. So really out of the question, not the race he would have wanted today. Priadko is still out there on the track. Where is the 777 car? Just coming through. Is he going into the pit lane now?
He's got
No.
Here
He's
he is.
not.
Now he is. Now
Oh, he is. There we go. The track map wasn't quite up to date, so he has come in.
The last available opportunity as well, which is rather bizarre. I don't really see much advantage to him doing that, apart from the fact that he's just away from traffic. But his lap times wasn't exactly anything overly special. I mean, for the AMs, maybe. Also a very nice livery with the black and the pink, by the way, from Priaco. But yeah, last available opportunity, he had to do that, or he'd risk. I think it's either a stop, it's either a 30-second penalty or just a straight disqualification for not serving your mandatory stop. So had to be very careful. But now in the closing 10 minutes of this race, three-way fight between Sam Fleety, Guillaume Hamling, and Ethan Faulkner. In this race is Dominic Aligna 10.5 seconds up the road. The only person that can stop him is himself. So now the fight is on to see who is going to be second best.
Yeah, it is at the moment. Fleety seems to have a bit of a cushion at the moment. It looks more like a fight between Hamling and Faulkner for the last place on there, but traffic may come into play at the moment. I'm just keeping one eye on the battle in the AMs just for the pits, and I think the 777's still in the pit lane, so I don't think he's going to have too much threat on the lead of this. He may come out perhaps behind Spies at the moment. There he is. He's out on the track now. I'm just seeing he's ahead of car number 92, and I'm just sort of looking perhaps at the moment. There's Priadko. There he is. Number 10. He's ahead of Suristo, so he's actually in third place. No, second.
Yes. Yeah.
That's everything. Yeah, he's in P12 as far as the thing in the bottom right has anything to say. So actually, the overcut has worked tremendously well and has seen him move up into second, and he's got a few cars behind him that will give him Southfield. Oh, what have you done, Jack? You're not going to live that one down.
He is not. Yeah. As if we needed anything more to take the mick out of Jack Southfield with. He's gone and got himself a drive-through, presumably for track limits. Obviously, the way ACC works is you do it once, it's 1 out of 3. You do it twice, 2, 3 out of 3. Then once you exceed again, it says, hang on, mate, naughty, you shouldn't be doing that, so I'm going to give you a drive-through, which I think is being the case for Jack Southfield to give himself one. And in the closing stages as well, there's not really going to be much that he can do in order to fight back from it. I think it's probably going to be outside of the top 10, and a big shame to end this race, because so far so good for Southfield. He hasn't driven a bad race by any means. I think he extracted the most that he could out of that Bentley. However, unfortunately, he's not relevant enough to be in this fight for second between 2, 3, and 4, Fleety, Hamling, and Faulkner. No progress from any of them so far, though. They just seem to be at arm's length away from each other. No one really able to fabricate much of a move.
Yeah, I think they're all driving their own race at the moment. I think they're well aware that all of them are nearby each other and close enough to make maybe pounce attacks on one another at the moment. But I think they're just trying to suss each other out for the time being. They can't do that for too long. And I mean, a mistake around here is very costly. And well, Faulkner had a really good exit through Degner 2 there. He's very close to the back of Hamling there. Hamling perhaps not getting the best measure. Some different lines being taken through the hairpin. Hamling turning in later. Faulkner going for the early apex as well, trying to find the speed on the exit of the corner, find the traction as they get the power down once again. And of course, if they start battling a lot harder than this, rather than sort of following each other and working together, they're going to invite Chumley into the mix as well. So then it will be a 4-car fight. And well, there's no chance of them really catching Aligna, as James White is clearing his way past Ryan Blanchett through Degner 1 and 2. But they're just, there's something brewing there, and perhaps there is going to be something toward the end. I mean, Jack Southfield, yeah, he was having a better showing than last week. It was a poor showing at the Nürburgring, but that drive-through really going to hamper him. And well, there's 7 minutes left in this race now. It's all to play for still for the podium at the minute. What's going to happen?
Well, I suppose only time will tell in that regard. You can't really throw many predictions at it, because any of them could have any form of mistake or misfortune between now and the checker flag, or one of them could really spark a charge and go for it. At the moment, I think it is Hamling looking backwards at Faulkner rather than the Lamborghini. Looking forward at Sam Fleety, Faulkner might be the one to put some pressure to get himself on to the podium. Also, Samuel Chumley in the background, 1.3, teetering on the edge of 1.4 seconds off the back of them. If they continue to fight, he's going to continue to close, and well, he might find himself here right at the end, finding himself in the fight for the podium.
Yeah, Sam Fleety's trying to check out here. The gap just over a second now. That may update even further as he crosses the line. Oh, it's just dropped under a second actually, so he's not driving away all that much. Someone who is driving away is Dominic Ligner. Has opened that gap up by about a second again. So he's certainly checked out of this race for sure. But all the pit stops done now. Pitmen are firmly closed. Everybody's served it, and I think it's a very hefty penalty for missing the mandatory pit stop. I want to say it's like 120 seconds for missing it, as far as I'm aware. I think that was at least the last time I saw one of those penalties. It was a big penalty, because it is a big chunk of time that you do actually spend in the pit lane around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not the shortest pit lane in the world. It's not the longest by any means, but you still spend quite a long time. I'd probably say in the region of maybe 15, 17 seconds, purely just driving down the pit lane nonetheless. A man that has been brought to our attention, by the way, is Nico Veldman, the Flying Dutchman, who, granted, is 7th after starting 6th, so you might be thinking, hang on, he's lost a position. Why are we writing home about this race? But to be fair to him, he tumbled outside the top 10 in the open moments of this race, and in the span of what is usually classed as a fraction of a race in some series, he's been able to work his way back up now well and firmly, truly into 7th place. So the pace has for sure been there for Nico Veldman. Unfortunately, that poor start, which again is of his own volition, he made the mistake himself, but it's how he recovered from it, how he scrapped the doubts and just straight away was like, right, made the mistake, what can I do about it? Overtake, push like crazy, and get himself back inside the top 10. So once again, a really good race for Nico Veldman, who continues to impress. Now we've got about 4 minutes and 20 seconds left of this race, as Jamie Nuttall is trying frivolously to find a way past on Ferreira, because I don't know, I suppose this race couldn't really go worse for Jamie Nuttall.
That's pride at this point for Nuttall, I think, just trying to get ahead of cars, finish as high as possible after that drive-through penalty, and we almost lost him for a few moments there. Zach, I couldn't find him on the timing tower, but we've good old Kieran Sharps managed to find him out on the track for us, so we can watch that Lexus go around. The only Lexus I've seen as far as the GT3 Series has come about. I don't think I've seen it before out there, so Nuttall really diving in the deep end with it. But yeah, and I think just to report on the battle for the remaining places on the podium, Chumley is closed in on this fight now, but it's still not really exploding at the moment. I mean, the closest we've had to action is Faulkner trying to suss out Hamling at the moment, but no, there needs to be something to really spark a last minute sort of tussle between these four drivers at the moment, as we are ticking down the time. 3 minutes and 10 left on the timing board, and I think this is going to be the penultimate lap that Ligner is starting now. Yes. He's just crossed the line.
Yeah, so 2 to go for Dominic Ligner. You're running about 2-minute lap time, so yeah, he'll be half the way around the final lap when the timer ticks 0. This fight here between Pryor and Wright has been building for quite some time. Not seen Pryor too much in the TSRC, so nice for him to join us in that Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2 versus now one of the seasoned veterans of the TSRC. Not quite been able to win a championship in the pros yet, James Wright, but he is pushing the limits and finding his way up into nearly 8th place at the moment. Veldman gets the driver of the day pick for Andrew Pike. And mine is Jack Southwood. No, it's not. James Wright at the moment still on the back of Pryor as he tries to find a way through. He's got 2 more laps to do it, but with each corner that ticks by is one less opportunity for him to find a way through.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that to attention, Andrew. Nico Veldman, he has definitely put a good bit of work in this evening around the Suzuka circuit. And definitely does deserve a driver of the day. Maybe Hamlin could be in contention as well, especially if he can keep this podium place from Faulkner. At the moment, we're almost toward the end of the race. At the moment, is anything going to happen on this final lap? We'll have to wait and see. At the moment, L of the day, Southfield. Oh, That's rough, but I can't not agree. I think it's getting a drive-through penalty is a bit of a silly mistake, really, especially for track limits.
I would like to hope that Jack Southwood's parents or anything aren't watching this broadcast. And Jack Southwood, when you're watching back, hi mate, how you doing? How you getting on? I hope your tissues aren't completely empty with the tears and snot that are dripping down your face at the moment, because we've absolutely ripped you a new one. We love you, really, from everyone at the TSRC, and we mean that very, very sincerely. I mean, at least I do. I don't know about Andrew Pike. He might be a little bit, harsh in that regard. So I hope you are enjoying your day, Jack Southfield. Don't beat around the bush. Don't do anything crazy. Just be better, and we won't take the mick out of you. Easy peasy, easy as that. Simples. Ethan Faulkner looking to the right-hand side, going on to the final lap of the race, and now the race is on for third.
Yeah, here we go then. This is the last chance. Faulkner's attempts are going to be dwindling. Oh, there's contact! Oh, he's hit the back of Hamlin and spun him around. Oh, no, there's a horrible way for Hamlin's race to end. That's going to find Faulkner into that position. That's not how he would have wanted to take it either. Oh, what absolute travesty.
Even the dog is excited. Kelsey Gill's dog is just as excited that Guillaume Hamlin is adding off. That is huge, huge news in the anticlimax at the end of this race. However, what could definitely bring a bit of excitement is this fight here. Samuel Chumley now in contention, and maybe Ethan Faulkner getting himself a penalty. Who knows? The time approaches 0. We are on the final lap of this race. Chumley firmly in contention. All he's got to do is find his way past Ethan Faulkner with half a lap left to go. Because that's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, the dog clearly a fan of the TSRC GT3 series, and if you are a fan of the series at the moment, please do leave a like. It's thrilling stuff toward the end with all this contact. All the support does go a long way, but I think a few corners away is our leader, Aligna. Can Chumley do anything to disrupt the podium at the moment? Can the 111 car get on there at the moment? Can perhaps Ryan Cockle get past Mav Gardner? Who knows? There's so many questions yet to be answered, but a couple more corners now for Dominic Aligna. He's coming through the Casio triangle. It's one more corner to navigate. Don't spin it here. You'd look like a right fool if you do, but he's not. He's masterfully got that McLaren round, and he's coming up towards the line. It's not that one. It's the next one for Dominic Aligna, who wins the second round of the TSRC championship at the moment, and it's a great drive from him. Very dominant out ahead at the moment. Chumley not quite able to get onto the podium. Fleety's going to come home in second, Faulkner third, and Chumley just behind by 0.2 of a second in fourth place, and a few drivers to come along still yet. Hamlin will be limping that car home, and he'll be shaking his head all the way to the line, I think, as well. Some flashing lights going through at the moment. Watching the battle for 8th place at the moment. It's Stuart Pryor and James Wright. Can anything change in amongst this? The ugliest looking Lamborghini with that Budweiser livery against the Ferrari. It does look very awful, I must say. But can there be any change there?
Shots fired from Kelsey Gill. Oh my word. That's I mean, right. I'd more look at the McDonald's Ferrari that's behind it more than anything. I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't suit the car.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't look any better on the Ferrari either. It looks like something straight out of GTA, I'll be honest. Yeah, I don't know. Side by side here as well, the fights continue all the way to the checkered flag. Gardner versus Antonio Ferreira, who goes a little bit tight on the exit of 130R, allows Ryan Cockle maybe to have a bit of a set. Nice little move there from the blue, white and yellowy green Ferrari. That has moved his way up into P19 now. Love the move. And, well, nice little opportunistic way to end the race here. 40 minutes of racing action. A really good race nonetheless here for the TSRC PC GT3 Series Season 5 Round 2 here at the Suzuka International Grand Prix Circuit. And, yeah, well, I suppose you could have a bit of empathy now, can't you, Kelsey, for how it's said?
Yes, of course I can. But Dominic Aligna then, a very dominant performance from him in his McLaren, and he takes another win at the moment. Then there's Sam Fleety coming home in P2 with Ethan Faulkner flanking the other side on the podium, but perhaps the stewards looming over him as he sits there for now. Then there's Samuel Chumley in P4. Guillaume Hamling rounds off your top 5. Then we have Maurice Stryker, Nico Veldman, Stuart Pryor, James Wright, Ryan Blanchett rounding off your top 10 and winning for the AMS as well, so breaking into the top 10. Very good drive from Ryan. Oscar Soristo separating Ryan Blanchett from Lucas Spies, who comes from in P2 with Tomasi P3. So not a bad recovery from Spies after his not so great qualifying there. Then Priadko 4, so he didn't manage to get onto the podium, but manages to at least finish ahead of Jack Southfield in P15. Then there's Gumeo, Nuttall, Gardner, Cockle, Friera, Steenbergen, Brown, Cisco, and Elias Troyer, the now understood 63 car that was stopped on the track, who'd managed not to finish the race. That's a shame for Troyer, but it has been a great race. Zach, and wow, we've got 4 more rounds to go, including a sprint round, and wow, can we expect more of the same going forward?
I think so. Yeah, it's been a great start to this season. 2-2, of course, for Dominic Aligna. He's had a really, really good run of form. Fastest lap as well. And, well, just for good measure. And he's done a really, really fantastic job to open up the season. And, of course, run away with the championship lead ever so slightly. Really looking forward, though, to seeing what the future of the season has to bring as we embark our way through the rest of the calendar that we've got in store. I mean, we have the Nürburgring, Suzuka, Brands Hatch in a week's time, then the sprint round at Kota, Bathurst and Misano to round off the 6-round championship. It's short, it's sweet, but it's always a good race, no matter where we are in the TSRC.
Indeed, and that's all the action coming up, and there's plenty more racing action to be had on the JP Broadcasting channel as well. Do go ahead and look, there's loads of action going on a Thursday night, and every night for that matter as well. So there's NASCAR, there's Formula 3, there's all sorts of racing action that you can find out here, so please do go over ahead, find what you like, and well, even leave likes and share it around as well. All the support does go a long way. We all work very, very hard, especially James as well, to give us all some coins in our pockets as well. But I'm going to stop rambling on. I have been Kelsey Gill for the evening. It's been Zach Sweeney and my dog as well alongside me. We've also had Kieran Sharp in the box as well on cameras. And from all of us here this evening, it's a very, very warm good night.